The council chamber was quiet except for the soft hum of translation devices. Ambassador Thalvin shuffled through digital files with his lower arms, while his upper arms gestured in frustration. Something was wrong with the records, and he could not figure out what. "When did we last hear from the humans?" he asked his assistant. The young aide checked the database. Her face went pale. 50 years ago. Ambassador. Thalvin's antennae twitched. That could not be right. Humans were always talking, always presenting proposals, always asking for meetings. They were annoying that way. 50 years of silence seemed impossible. "Check again," he ordered. The aide checked 3 more times. The answer remained the same. The last official communication from humanity was dated exactly 50 standard years ago. It was a simple message. "Embassy operations concluded. Thank you for the opportunity to participate." No one had noticed. In a galaxy of 10,000 species, one going quiet should have raised alarms. But it had not. The humans had simply stopped coming to meetings, and everyone felt relieved. Thalvin remembered Hyun-woo, the last human liaison officer. The man had been persistent to the point of rudeness. He came to the council chambers every week with reports about something he called the Devourers. He claimed they were a threat emerging from the dark space beyond the rim. "We have detected unusual energy signatures," Hyun-woo had said during his final presentation. "Our long-range probes show entire star systems going dark. Something is consuming them." Thalvin had dismissed the report. Humans were young, only 300 years into space travel. They saw threats everywhere because they did not understand how the galaxy worked. The Council had maintained peace for 12,000 years. Some energy signatures on the rim were not worth worrying about. "Your species has much to learn," Thalvin had told Hyun-woo. "The Council has protocols for threat assessment. We will investigate when we deem it necessary." Hyun-woo had nodded slowly. He looked tired. "Of course, Ambassador. We will continue monitoring the situation from our end." That was the last time anyone saw him. The human embassy had been a massive complex on the Council world, full of staff and activity. One day it was busy. The next day, it was empty. The building stood vacant, doors sealed, systems powered down. No forwarding address, no explanation. Other council members had joked about it. "The humans finally learned to be quiet," someone had said. Everyone laughed. Now Thalvin pulled up old files and felt something cold settle in his stomach. He found personnel records for human staff across council space. There had been thousands of them. Engineers in the infrastructure department. Doctors in the medical corps. Teachers in the cultural exchange program. Scientists in the research stations. All of them had quietly resigned within a 6-month period. All of them had returned to human space. No drama. No complaints. Just polite resignation letters, thanking the Council for the opportunity to serve. "Find me the records of council meetings from that period," Thalvin ordered. His aide brought up 50 years of meeting minutes. Thalvin read through them, searching for any mention of humanity's departure. He found nothing. The minutes showed that meetings continued as normal. Proposals were voted on. Budgets were approved. Trade agreements were signed. Not one council member had asked where the humans went. Thalvin found a video file from the human embassy's final day. It showed Hyun-woo standing in the empty lobby. He looked around, at the bare walls, where artwork had hung. He looked at the empty receptionist's desk, where a woman named Miran had greeted visitors for 20 years. "We tried," Hyun-woo said to someone off camera. "We really tried." The other voice belonged to Ji-sung, the human military commander assigned to Council Defense Coordination. "They do not want us here, Hyun-woo. They made that clear. They need us, though. The Devourers are real. Our data is solid," Ji-sung sighed. "Need and want are different things. We can help people who do not appreciate us, or we can go home and focus on protecting our own." The Council made their choice when they stopped listening. "What about the species who will die when the Devourers come?" "We gave them the data. We gave them the warnings. We offered our help. They refused all of it. We cannot force people to accept help they do not want. Ji-sung put a hand on Hyunwoo's shoulder. Come on. The last transport leaves in an hour. Earth is waiting. The video ended with Hyunwoo taking one last look around the empty embassy. Then he walked out, and the doors sealed behind him. Thalvin sat in silence for a long time. He thought about all the times he had ignored Hyunwoo's reports. He thought about how the council treated humans as primitive newcomers who did not understand galactic politics. He thought about how relieved everyone felt when the humans stopped talking. Sir? His aide asked quietly. What should we do? Thalvin did not have an answer. How do you apologize to someone who left so quietly that you did not notice for 50 years? How do you ask for help from people you dismissed as unimportant? Pull up Hyunwoo's reports about the Devourers, he finally said. All of them. The aide hesitated. Sir, those were filed under rejected proposals. They were never given serious review. 8. 2000. Pull them up anyway. As his aide worked, Thalvin looked out the window at the beautiful council world below. Somewhere out in the darkness of space, humanity had sealed itself away. Somewhere, out there, the threat they warned about was growing, and the council had no idea how to find the humans, much less ask them to come back. The maintenance alert came at 3 a.m. station time. Ambassador Krelix woke to flashing red lights in his quarters. The station's environmental systems were failing. Temperature controls were offline. Water recycling had stopped. Life support was dropping to emergency levels. He rushed to the engineering bay and found chaos. Technicians ran between control panels, trying to restore systems manually. Nothing worked. The lead engineer, a four-armed Torgathi named Bex, looked ready to cry. What happened? Krelix demanded. The main control system crashed, Bex explained. We tried to restart it, but we do not know how. The human engineer who maintained it left 20 years ago, then used the manual override. We are trying, but the system is too complex. It has 17,000 subsystems that all need to work together. The human designed it to be efficient. But now that it is broken, we cannot fix it. Krelix felt his scales prickle with irritation. Did the human not leave? Instructions? Bex pulled up a technical manual on his screen. It was written in human language, with detailed diagrams. Yes, but we cannot understand it. The human used concepts that do not translate well. He kept saying things like, think of it as a conversation between systems and let the network find its own balance. What does that even mean? The ambassador looked at the manual. It was written by someone named Young Soo, a human engineer who had volunteered for this remote station 15 years ago. He had upgraded every system, making everything run smoother and more efficiently. Then one day, he had quietly resigned and gone home. Why did we not learn how his systems worked while he was here? Krelix asked. Bex looked embarrassed. We thought we did not need to. He made everything so easy that we stopped paying attention to how things worked. We just knew they worked. Across council space, similar problems were appearing. Trade routes that humans had optimized were becoming inefficient. Ships took longer to travel between systems because they did not understand the navigation shortcuts humans had developed. Colonies that relied on human agricultural techniques were seeing crop failures because no one else knew the precise balance of nutrients and environmental controls. Minister Vex Ara of the Trade Department sent out an urgent message to all council members. Her feathers were ruffled with stress as she appeared on their screens. We have a crisis, she announced. Our economic output has dropped by 30% in the last 5 years. We did not notice at first because the decline was gradual. But now, the pattern is clear. Every system that humans helped develop is failing. The council members looked at each other in confusion. 30% seemed impossible. How could one species leaving cause such damage? Vex Ara showed them the data. Humans had been involved in everything. They had redesigned transportation networks to be more efficient. They had developed medical treatments for diseases that affected multiple species. They had created translation software that made communication easier. They had built diplomatic bridges between species that did not trust each other. And they had done all of it quietly, without asking for recognition or reward. Why did we not notice humans doing all of this? One council member asked. Because they did not make noise about it, Vexera said. They just saw problems and fixed them. While we were having meetings about what to do, humans were already doing it. Krelix volunteered to investigate further. He traveled to an abandoned human research station on the edge of council space. The station had been sealed for decades, but the council had finally decided to open it and see what was inside. What he found shocked him. The station was huge, full of laboratories and workshops and libraries. Every room contained solutions to problems the council did not even know existed yet. In one lab, he found research on a disease that had not appeared in council space yet. The human scientist, Dr. Hay-1, had predicted its emergence based on environmental trends. Her notes contained a complete treatment protocol, ready to use when needed. In another room, he found Young-Su's personal workshop. The walls were covered in diagrams and equations. There were prototype devices that could purify water more efficiently, generate power from stellar radiation, and grow food in hostile environments. All of it was just sitting there, unused, because no one had asked if humans were working on anything important. Everyone had assumed humans were just doing basic tasks, not solving complex problems. The most disturbing discovery came from the station's communication logs. Krelix found messages between human researchers discussing their decision to leave. "They do not want our help," one message read. "Every time we present our research, they thank us politely and file it away. They do not actually use any of it," another message said. "I spent 5 years developing a cure for Vexara's people. Their genetic disorder affects millions. I gave them the cure for free. They said they would review it. That was 3 years ago. I checked yesterday. They never even tested it." A final message, from Young-Su himself, was dated 1 week before the humans left. "We keep trying to help, but they see us as inferior. Maybe they are right. Maybe we should go home and stop wasting our time on people who do not value our work." Krelix sat in the empty station for a long time. He thought about all the times council members had dismissed human contributions as trivial. He thought about how humans had been excluded from important meetings because they were considered too young to understand galactic politics. He thought about how wrong they all had been. His assistant called with urgent news. "Ambassador, we have reports from the Rim territories. Ships are disappearing. Entire colonies have gone silent. The energy signatures match the data from those old human reports about the Devourers." Krelix felt his blood go cold. Hyunwoo had been right. The threat was real. And humanity had been trying to warn them for years before they left. The first colony died in 3 hours. 5 million people were gone before anyone even realized they were under attack. The Devourers came from dark space like a wave of hunger, consuming everything in their path. Ships, stations, planets, nothing survived. Fleet Commander Zorath stood on the bridge of the Council's flagship and watched the tactical display with growing horror. Her crystalline body pulsed with stress as red markers appeared across the screen. Each marker represented a lost colony. "How many ships do they have?" she asked. Her tactical officer checked the sensors. "We cannot count them, Commander. They move as one mass. Our computers estimate somewhere between 10,000 and 1 million vessels." Zorath's light dimmed. The entire Council fleet had only 30,000 ships. They were outnumbered and outmatched. "What are their tactics?" "They do not have tactics, Commander. They just move forward and consume. They break apart ships for raw materials. They drain energy from power cores. They strip planets down to bare rock." Zorath ordered the fleet to engage. Council ships were advanced, equipped with weapons that could destroy planets. Surely they could stop these creatures. The battle was a disaster. Council weapons hit the Devourer ships, but the damage did not matter. The creatures just absorbed the destroyed ship's materials and built more vessels. Every ship the Council destroyed made the enemy stronger. After 6 hours of fighting, Zorath ordered a retreat. She had lost 4,000 ships and gained nothing. The Devourers kept coming. Back at Council headquarters, the military leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. Everyone looked shaken. No one had seen anything like this before. "We need new tactics," Zorath said. "Our current approach is feeding them." One of the admirals brought up a forgotten file. "Commander, I found something in the archives. A human general named Te Jin submitted a military analysis of potential threats 53 years ago. He described exactly this scenario." The room went silent. Everyone looked at the file. It was labeled, "Rejected Proposal, Human Paranoia." Zorath opened it. Inside was a detailed analysis of how to fight an enemy that consumed resources. Te Jin had written, "Traditional warfare relies on destroying the enemy's capability to fight. But if the enemy uses destruction as fuel, then traditional warfare makes them stronger. You must starve them instead of fighting them." The report contained specific tactics. Use weapons that vaporize matter completely instead of breaking it apart. Evacuate all resources from threatened areas so the enemy finds nothing to consume. Lead them into areas with no stars, no planets, no resources at all. Make them waste energy searching for food that does not exist. "This is brilliant," one admiral said. "Why was this rejected?" Zorath checked the review notes. The Council Military Committee had written, "Humans have no experience with galactic warfare. This analysis is based on theoretical scenarios, not real experience. Recommendation: file and forget." She wanted to scream. They had the answer 50 years ago and threw it away because they did not respect the source. "Implement these tactics immediately," she ordered. "And find me everything else," Te Jin wrote. The Council scrambled to follow Te Jin's old plans. They began evacuating colonies ahead of the Devourer advance. They modified their weapons to vaporize targets instead of just destroying them. They set traps that led Devourer ships into empty space where they would starve. It helped, but it was not enough. The tactics slowed the Devourers but did not stop them. Too much time had been wasted. The enemy had already consumed dozens of systems and grown too strong. Zorath found more human files in the archives. Dr. Haywon, a xenobiologist, had studied the Devourers for years. Her research was filed under Unconfirmed Species Low Priority. Haywon's notes were incredible. She had predicted the Devourers' emergence, mapped their likely origin point, and analyzed their biology. She had even found their weakness. "Devourers are not truly alive," she had written. "They are a form of self-replicating technology created by an extinct civilization. They were designed to break down and recycle matter. But something went wrong, and they became too efficient. They consumed their creators and everything else. The weakness was in their network. Devourers communicated through quantum signals to coordinate their swarm. If you could disrupt that communication, they would become confused and attack each other. Haywon had even designed a device to generate the disruption signal. The plans were sitting in her old lab, untouched, for 50 years. "Why did no one read this?" Zorath asked in frustration. The archivist who found the file looked ashamed. Humans submitted thousands of reports. Most council members assumed they were not important. So the reports were filed without review. Zorath ordered her engineers to build Haywon's device. It took 6 months because the humans had used concepts and technologies that council species did not fully understand. The device should have taken weeks to build. But without human guidance, every step was a struggle. Finally, they deployed it in the middle of a devourer swarm. The effect was immediate and devastating. The quantum signal scrambled the devourer network. Ships that had been moving in perfect coordination suddenly turned on each other. The swarm tore itself apart. The council fleet used the chaos to destroy the confused ships with vaporizing weapons. For the first time in months, they won a major battle, but the victory felt hollow. They had lost 40% of their territory. Billions of citizens were dead. Entire civilizations were erased, and it all could have been prevented if they had just listened to the humans 50 years ago. Zorath stood alone on her bridge after the battle. She thought about Taejin and Hae-Won and all the other humans who had tried to help. She thought about how the council had treated them like ignorant children. "We should have listened," she said to the empty room. "They knew. They tried to tell us, and we threw away their warnings because we thought we were better than them." Her tactical officer entered with another report. "Commander, we tried to contact Earth. We sent messages to every known human colony. We explained the situation and asked for help. And every message bounced back. Human space is sealed behind some kind of barrier. Our signals cannot get through. It is like they built a wall around their entire civilization." Zorath understood. Humanity had closed the door. They had tried to help and been rejected. Now, they were protecting themselves and letting the council face the consequences of their arrogance. She could not blame them. Captain Velmon was the council's best explorer. His people had mapped more of the galaxy than any other species. If anyone could find humanity, it was him. He started at the old human colony on Kepler 442. The colony had been abandoned for 50 years. But maybe they left clues about where they went. Velmont walked through empty streets where 10,000 humans once lived. Houses stood empty. Schools were silent. Everything was clean and orderly, as if people had simply vanished one day. In the colony's central archive, Velmont found a message carved into a metal wall. It was written by someone named Sujin, a human archaeologist who had studied ancient civilizations. "We came to the stars looking for friendship." The message read, "We found business partners instead. That is fine. We learned a valuable lesson. You cannot force people to care about you. So we go home to the people who do care. We leave behind everything we built here as a gift. Use it well." 1. Velmont touched the carved words. There was no anger in them, just sadness and acceptance. That somehow made it worse. He explored the colony further and found something strange. The infrastructure was far more advanced than it appeared. Power generators that should have failed decades ago were still running. Water systems operated perfectly. Environmental controls maintained ideal conditions. All of it was human-designed. All of it was built to last long after humans were gone. They knew they would leave. Velmont's engineer said. They built all of this to keep working without them. Why would they do that? Because they cared. Velmont answered quietly. Even knowing they were not wanted, they still cared. Velmont. They found more human sites. A research station that was still collecting scientific data and transmitting it to council databases. A communications relay that was still routing messages across the sector. A medical facility that was still producing vaccines for diseases that affected other species. All of it was automated. All of it was maintained by systems humans had designed to run forever. Humans had left, but their help continued. On a small moon, they found a hidden facility. It was protected by security systems that took weeks to bypass. Inside, they found something that changed everything. It was a map of every major council achievement in the last 200 years, and beside each achievement was a notation showing human involvement. The Great Peace Treaty between the Zaketh and the Morvan people, which ended a war that had lasted 300 years, humans had served as secret mediators, working behind the scenes to build trust between the two species. The cure for the red spiral plague that saved billions? A human medical team had developed it, then quietly given it to council doctors to present as their own discovery. The economic reforms that prevented a depression? Human economists had designed them and convinced council members the ideas were their own. On and on the list went. Hundreds of examples of humans helping in secret, never taking credit, never asking for recognition. They had been the invisible force holding Council civilization together. Velmon sat in shock as he read through the files. Why did they hide their contributions? His communication officer found the answer in Sujin's personal logs. She explains it here. Humans learned early that Council species did not like feeling inferior to a younger race, so they helped in secret, making others think the ideas came from themselves. That way, everyone's pride was protected, and the work still got done. They sacrificed recognition to spare our feelings. Velmon felt sick. While we treated them like they had nothing valuable to offer? They found one more message from Sujin, dated the day before humanity left Council space. It was addressed to whoever might eventually search for them. We are not angry, she wrote. We understand that trust takes time to build. We hoped that our actions would eventually prove our worth, but we realize now that some people will never see value in those who are different from them. We do not blame you. We just choose to spend our energy on those who appreciate it. We leave behind everything we built. Consider it our parting gift. We hope it helps you build a better future, even if we are not part of it. The message included coordinates to Earth, but when they tried to navigate there, they found nothing. The coordinates led to empty space. Humanity had moved their homeworld or encrypted its location so thoroughly that even their own maps were useless. Councillor Threnax, the only council member who had consistently advocated for humanity, joined Velmon's search. He was old now, and his 3 hearts beat weakly. But he insisted on helping. I tried to tell them, Threnax said. For years, I argued that humans were valuable partners, but I was one voice against thousands. The council did not want to hear it. He showed Velmon recordings of old council sessions. In each one, Threnax presented evidence of human contributions. In each one, other council members dismissed it. Humans are helpful, yes, one recording showed an ambassador saying. But they are also young and naive. We should not rely on them for important matters. They are trying too hard, another said. It makes them seem desperate. Real partners do not need to prove themselves constantly, Threnax had responded. Perhaps they prove themselves because we constantly doubt them. And perhaps our doubt says more about us than about them. No one had listened. Now Threnax was dying. His species only lived 200 years, and he had spent the last 50 trying to undo the damage caused by humanity's departure. It was too late for him, but maybe not too late for the council. Find them, he told Velmon. Tell them we are sorry. Tell them we finally understand. Velmon tried. He searched for years. He found dozens more hidden human facilities, each one providing services to the council without asking for anything in return. He found messages from humans explaining their work, hoping someone would eventually appreciate it, but he never found Earth. Humanity had sealed itself away completely. They had left behind their gifts, but they had taken themselves beyond reach. The final message Velmon found was carved into a moon's surface in letters 10 kilometers high. It was humanity's last official communication to the Council. Written in every major galactic language, it said simply, "We gave you everything we could. We hope it was enough. Be well." Velmon stood on that moon and looked up at the words. He thought about everything humanity had done and everything the Council had lost. He thought about how they could have been true partners if only the Council had been willing to see past their own pride. It was enough, he whispered to the empty sky. 5 years after the Devourer War began, Supreme Chancellor Kixall stood before the Council and announced what everyone already knew. They had lost. 40% of our territory is gone, she said. 3 trillion citizens are dead. Our economy has collapsed. Our technology has stagnated. And we are only surviving because we are using strategies and tools that humans left behind. The council chamber was silent. Once, it had held representatives from 10,000 species. Now, barely 4,000 attended. The rest were too busy dealing with crises in their home systems. Quixal was tired. She had been chancellor for 30 years, and most of that time had been spent managing the disaster of humanity's absence. She had inherited a civilization that had taken humans for granted, and now she was watching it fall apart. "We need to acknowledge the truth," she continued. "Humans were not junior partners. They were not naive newcomers who needed our guidance. They were the foundation that held our civilization together. And we drove them away through neglect and disrespect." One council member stood. "But we are surviving. We use their tactics against the devourers. We learned from their research. We can recover." Quixal shook her head. "We are surviving. Yes. But we are not thriving. Look at our medical advances. There have been none in 50 years. Look at our technology. We are still using what humans designed. Look at our diplomatic relations. Species that humans helped reconcile are at war again. We are slowly declining, and without humans to help us, I do not know if we can stop it." 4. She pulled up a text on the main display. It was an essay by a human philosopher named Dong Hyun, titled "The Weight of Silence." It had been written 1 month before humanity left council space. "Listen to this," Quixal said, and began to read. "A partnership is not measured by loud declarations but by silent contributions. Anyone can make speeches about friendship, but true partners are the ones who fix your problems while you sleep, who solve your challenges before you even know they exist, who give freely without demanding recognition. We gave our knowledge, our labor, our lives to the Galactic Council. We did it because we believed in the idea of civilization, that different peoples could work together for the common good. We did not ask for special treatment. We only asked to be heard. But there is a difference between being heard and being listened to. You heard our warnings. You filed them away. You heard our suggestions. You thanked us and did nothing. You heard our offers of help. You smiled politely and dismissed us as soon as we left the room. Your silence told us everything we needed to know. It told us that you saw us as helpers, not partners, as tools, not people, as a convenience, not a civilization worth respecting. So we respond with our own silence. We leave without anger or bitterness. We simply accept that you do not value what we offer. We will take our contributions elsewhere, to ourselves, to our own future, to people who might appreciate what we can give. Perhaps one day you will understand what you lost. Perhaps not. Either way, we wish you well. May you find the wisdom we could not provide." Quixal stopped reading. The council chamber remained silent. Several representatives were crying. Others looked at the floor, unable to meet anyone's eyes. "Dong Hyun was right," Quixal said. She pulled up another text. This one was a poem by a human named Jinnah, titled "The Quiet Goodbye." It had become the most read piece of literature in council space. Citizens shared it, teachers taught it, and leaders quoted it. It was humanity's epitaph, written by their own hand. We left no monuments to mark our passing, no grand speeches to echo through time. We simply closed the door and walked away, as quietly as we came. But in that silence, we spoke louder than any words could say. We mattered, and you did not notice until we were gone. The poem was short, only 12 lines. But those lines captured everything the council had lost. It was read at memorials for the war dead. It was carved into monuments. It was taught to children as a lesson about the cost of taking others for granted. Humanity had become more important to the council after leaving than they ever were while present. Quixal announced the construction of a memorial on the council homeworld. It would honor humanity and all they had contributed. Master architects from every species competed to design it. The winning design was simple but powerful. A massive circular chamber with walls listing every human who had served the council, and in the center, empty space. The emptiness represents their absence, the architect explained. A void that can never be filled. Visitors walk through the names of all who helped us, then stand in the emptiness and understand what we lost. The memorial took 10 years to build. On the day it opened, millions came to visit. They walked through the halls reading names. Hyun-woo, the liaison who warned them about the devourers. Young-soo, the engineer whose systems still ran across council space. Hae-won, the scientist who found the devourers' weakness. Tae-jin, the general whose tactics saved them. Soo-jin, the archaeologist who documented humanity's choice to leave, and thousands more. Teachers, doctors, engineers, artists, diplomats. Each had given something valuable. Each had been ignored or dismissed. Each had left quietly. With dignity intact, people stood in the empty center and wept. They wept for the dead of the Devourer War. They wept for the civilization they had lost. But mostly, they wept for the friends they had rejected without even realizing it. Kixal attended the memorial's opening. She was old now, near the end of her life. She had spent her final years trying to stabilize what remained of council civilization. It was hard work, made harder by the absence of human innovation and assistance. As she stood in the memorial center, her communication device beeped. An urgent message had arrived at council headquarters. She checked it, expecting another crisis report. Instead, she found an encrypted transmission from an unknown source beyond council space. It had taken 5 years to reach them, traveling through quantum channels that should not exist. The encryption was breakable, but only barely designed to be hard enough that they would know it was important, but easy enough that they could actually read it. The message was simple. We are still here. We are just done waiting for you to notice. Kixal felt her heart skip. She showed the message to her advisors. They analyzed it for hours. The source was untraceable. The technology was beyond anything the council possessed. It was definitely human. They are watching us, one advisor said. They know everything that happened. What should we do? Another asked. Should we respond? Kixal thought for a long time. She thought about Donghyun's essay, about the weight of silence. She thought about Jinna's poem, about the quiet goodbye. She thought about 50 years of regret. No, she finally said. We do not respond. Not yet. But, Chancellor, humans spoke to us for 300 years, and we did not listen. Now they have spoken once in 50 years. This time, we listen. We hear what they are actually saying, which is that they are done waiting for us. That if we want them back, we must earn it. Not with words, but with actions. Not by asking them to return, but by becoming worth returning to. Kixal looked at the memorial, at the empty space that represented humanity's absence. We must rebuild. Not just our civilization, but ourselves. We must learn the lessons they tried to teach us. We must become the partners they deserved, even if they never come back to see it. And if they do come back, then we will be ready. Not to ask for their help, but to offer ours. Not to use them, but to stand beside them. Not as people who finally notice them, but as people who never should have looked away. The message from humanity was copied and shared across council space. It became a symbol of hope for some, a reminder of failure for others, but for everyone, it was proof that humanity still existed. Somewhere out there, beyond the darkness. They were watching. They were waiting. And perhaps, one day, they would decide the council had finally learned enough to deserve a second chance. But that day was not today. Today, the council could only stand in the empty memorial and contemplate the cost of taking someone for granted. They could only read the names of those who had helped them and wonder what their civilization might have been if they had just listened. The quiet goodbye echoed through the ages. And in that silence, humanity's message rang clear. They had mattered. And the council had not noticed until it was too late.